If you are considering a Roth conversion, you might want to consider delaying Social Security because it could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm going to show you an example right now and then walk you through an example of how I explain this to my clients. So check this out. John here, he has $2.4 million. You can see here 1.8 is in a 401k. $476,000 is in a superhero account, aka a brokerage account. And you can see that's actually all in Microsoft stock. So you can see the cost basis is $87,000 and it's worth $476,000. So the reason I'm showing you this is purely for Roth conversions and Social Security purposes. There's a lot I can go over, but here's what I think might blow your mind. So right now, if we were to just click on the tax tab, what the software will do is it's going to calculate what they recommend might be an effective Roth conversion. And you can see right here, if they were to convert up to the 22% bracket, which I'm going to explain all of this in just a second, there'd be $818,000 more dollars. Otherwise said, if John were to say, you know what, I'm happy to pay a little bit in taxes today, maybe at 22% to avoid potentially in the future paying 30 or 40% in taxes, you would end up with about $818,000 more tax-free dollars at the end, aka tax arbitrage. Our industry likes to use a bunch of fancy words, so we sound smart, but all you're really doing is you're paying taxes at a lower rate today, knowing you'll be in a higher bracket in the future. But here's what I want to explain to you. So remember this number, 818,000. That's a big deal. But when we first started talking about his planning, we were assuming he wants to spend $10,000 a month, extra on vacations, long-term care, buy new cars, and right now he makes a healthy salary. He's 56. He wants to retire at 60. That's his plan right now. Social Security, his plan is to collect at full retirement age, which for him is 67 years old. What if we were to say, you know what, instead of collecting at 67, John, we're going to push you back to 70. What if we do that? Why would that impact the plan? Well, I'm going to explain in just a second. But to show you, let's click the tax tab again, because this is where it gets fun. Now, fun for me, because I'm a nerd who loves this stuff, but I think it will be fun for you too. So if you click tab under tax strategies, do you remember what this number said before? It said about 818,000. Now it says 1.2. Why did it just increase by $400,000? Well, the reason is when you turn on Social Security, what you're effectively doing is you're creating more income, which is not bad unless it interrupts a potential Roth conversion strategy. And when you are doing Roth conversions, you don't want things to interrupt, because what that means is you're going to be paying more tax on those conversions. Let me explain it to you another way. Now, before I go further, my name is Ari. I'm a certified financial planner, host of the Early Retirement Podcast, and Chief Growth Officer here at Root. I love making videos, if you can't tell, on tax strategy, on healthcare, on withdrawal strategies. You're never going to see me make a video on here's the best new credit card or how to travel hack. That is not my specialty. I like doing what I feel really changes what your retirement could look like. So check this out. Now, by the way, everything I'm showing today, both the software and then what you're going to see on my screen in just a second, is all available in the description if you want to use it. So you can see here, this is the important numbers sheet. This is 2 pages of everything you need to know if you are planning on retirement, because it just makes it nice and easy for you. So check this out. Let's go over here. Federal income tax. So these are ordinary income tax brackets, meaning if today you're retired and you have zero income, well, you wouldn't pay any taxes. But most people don't have zero income because they're living off of a 401k or an IRA or a brokerage account where they're paying capital gains taxes. So what I'm going to show you today is why, once again, you need to be very careful about turning on Social Security too early. Now, before I show you why, I know what many of you are thinking, or I'm going to guess. I want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong. I bet many of you are thinking, well, right now, I think there's just so much pressure on my portfolio. I have about maybe $2 million. And my concern is if I don't turn on Social Security, everything is coming from my portfolio. And it would feel really good if I turn Social Security on, because if, for example, I need $100,000 to live and Social Security is giving me $30,000, well, that's only $70,000 I need from my portfolio. So that just feels much more comforting, which is a trap I see a lot of people fall into. It's absolutely worth the analysis. In fact, it's required, as I see it, so that you understand that you make the right decision. Because there are instances where I will tell someone, you know what, I know the Roth conversions look sexy and fun. You don't need to do them. You should turn on Social Security because it is going to take pressure off, because those conversions aren't as impactful for you. So obviously it always depends, but let me show you once again. So you can see here, this right here is the tax bracket system I want you to follow with me. So I'm going to pretend you're single, okay? Just for example's sake, you could say you're married, whatever you want. But in this example, our case study, our person is single. So I'm going to go ahead and use this bracket here. So what this means is the first 10%, the first $11,925 is taxed at 10%. The next 11,926 to 48,475 is 12%, and so on. You get it. So why am I showing you this? Well, let's pretend we turn on Social Security and that brought, let's just say $30,000 to keep it simple. I know it's not exactly that. But if it was 30, that means we're starting here. We're starting in the 12% bracket, and we have $18,000 until we get to 48,475. So we start at 30, 48,475. Once we go beyond that, now we're in the 22% bracket. So let's just pretend that we want to do a $30,000 Roth conversion. Well, if we did not turn on Social Security, we would get to pay 10% on the first 11,925, and then the other, 19,000 or so would be taxed at 12%. Pretty simple. You would not be paying a huge tax bill. But if you turn on Social Security early, if you turn it on at 62, which is the earliest you can take it, unless you are surviving a spouse, in which case 60 you could collect. Well, pretend once again you already have 30,000 of Social Security coming in. Well, if that's the case, we're already in the 10% bracket. So you can just go ahead and ignore that. We're starting here. So if we're starting at 30 and we want to do a $30,000 conversion, you can see here the first 18,000 from 30 to 48, that 18,000 difference, that's taxed at 12%. The remaining $12,000 is taxed at 22%. Plus, there are state taxes. So you can see right there in that really simple example, if you turn on Social Security, what you're doing is you're making your Roth conversions less effective because you're paying more taxes. The whole point of Roth conversions is to pay as little as possible when you're in a low tax bracket. So in the future, you're not taxed like crazy. Now, obviously, there's a ton of detail that I can go into, and I have videos where I go into way more depth regarding executing Roth conversions. But this simple example, you guys can all run on your own. All you need to do is shift when you turn on Social Security. So once again, let's put it back to full retirement age, and let's go ahead and click save. Let's go back to the tax tab here so you guys can all follow along. And if I'm under tax strategies, look at what it says now. It still is saying Roth conversions are helpful. You can obviously use the tool like this to model out different scenarios. And if you're like, wow, this is awesome, I can tell you guys love this stuff, but this is not what I want to spend my time doing in retirement, well, that's why we exist. So you can, of course, go to our website, rootfinancial.com, click the little button that says, see if you're a fit, answer a few questions, and then we'll be prompted to talk to you very soon. Thanks, guys. See you next time.